fear truly is what holds us back from living the life we're meant to live, from being who we are meant to be. It is a prison. And when we have the courage and when we're brave enough to truly look within, to heal those emotional wounds, to take action and walk through those fears.
Today's guest is Janice Burt, aka Spanish Janice, a court-certified Spanish interpreter, voiceover artist, a yoga instructor, an inspirational speaker. She is a best-selling author and a TEDx speaker. Her mission is to encourage, uplift, and unite people's heart with the power of words, and an example of authenticity, action, and love. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love talking about this stuff.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. What is one of the most courageous things you have done?
Oh my gosh. I was thinking about that because I knew I was going to be talking to you, and my life had been driven for so long by fear that to truly be courageous happened when I hit kind of my rock bottom moment after my divorce, when I realized I'm the only one who is here in my life, and I had to stop kind of blaming and having that victim mentality and actually step up and walk through my fears and be courageous. But so I've done a lot of courageous, kind of crazy things in the last 10 years. But prior to that, I was thinking one of the most courageous things I did when I was young was I know I loved sports back in the day, but we didn't have a lot of money. And so I didn't have the right shoes, or, had never been enrolled in any kind of clubs or anything like that. But at my high school, I found out that they were doing tryouts for volleyball. Ooh. And I had never played volleyball. I didn't know the rules. I didn't have the right clothes, but I was so determined and so much wanted to play a sport that I just showed up to these auditions as I think I must have been 14. Okay. 14-year-old girl, all by myself. My parents didn't tell me to go. I didn't have friends there. And I tried out for this sport, and I remember doing horribly. I had never touched a volleyball before, but we didn't have enough people that tried out. So I made the team kind of by default. Oh, and bless. It ended up just being an amazing experience because I played for all 4 years. The last year I got MVP, and I ended up just loving it and excelling. But I was thinking that never would have happened had I not been courageous enough at 14 years old just to know that I wanted to do that and show up.
Excellent. Absolutely. And I think that's the thing. It is showing up. To be honest, at the age of 14, that's great, because some people, me included, do it later on in life. So that's brilliant.
Well, I did it. I had that, I think, courageous kind of component to myself early on. But as time went on, the fears and the doubts and the insecurities all started stacking up, as they do. Yes. And that's when I started not stepping out, not doing things that I truly wanted to do, allowing fear to silence my voice, to prohibit me from doing these things that I truly was passionate about and wanted to do. So when I hit rock bottom after my divorce, I thought, okay, I'm going to do everything that I have been too scared to do previously. I'm just going to start walking through all of those fears. So to answer your previous question, I think recently one of the most courageous things I've done is I entered a bodybuilding competition.
Woo!
And I was a huge tomboy when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So, the body image issues and having to kind of deal with the feminine side of things, and it was kind of a big deal. But I did it because I knew that was holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, every time I do something as far as stepping through fear and walking through it, on the other side of that, no matter how terrified I am in the moment, on the other side, I build a little bit more confidence, a little bit more respect for myself, because I know how terrified I was and I did it anyway. For people who really want to build self-confidence and just that respect and belief in yourself, I would say do those hard things that push you, that stretch you, that challenge you. And on the other side of that, you develop more and more all of those beliefs about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really intrigued to know what took you on your journey of being AKA Spanish Janice. What's that all about?
So when I was younger, my parents moved. I have an older brother and then my mom and dad, and they moved to Mexico City and took us as kids with them. And I think I was 8 years old when we got there, and then we stayed for 5 years. So during that time, I fell in love with everything Mexican, Spanish, the Latin culture, the people. I just loved it. It was my home. And then we moved back to the United States when I was 13 years old. And I remember hating it here and feeling like, what is this place? I want to go back to Mexico and I don't want to be here. And, I was put into this junior high school at I think it was the middle of 7th grade year or 8th grade year, and was bullied and picked on. So it was kind of a rough transition from Mexico coming back here. But all that being said, the Spanish Janice part didn't appear until after my divorce, when I realized I have to now make money because I was a stay-at-home mom. So I had been raising 2 kids for the past maybe 8 years. I hadn't worked in the workforce. And I was thinking, okay, I love Spanish. I love speaking Spanish, but I don't want to teach. Because people are like, oh, you could teach. And I'm like, I don't know that I'm cut out to be a teacher, but what about interpreting? So I started going to interpreting school, and I became a court certified Spanish interpreter. So that's kind of where I made the majority of my income for a long time. And then I started doing voiceover work because I used to love acting. That was another kind of thing that fear had shut down early on that I picked up again. And I started auditioning, and I was in some short films and music videos and doing different things. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do voiceovers in English and in Spanish.
Excellent.
So I started doing that. And then, so Spanish Janice is the bilingual, or the Spanish speaking side of me, doing interpreting and voiceover work and speaking.
Yeah, because how did you get into acting and voiceovers then?
I just started networking, and so I joined this, I think it's called SAC, because I'm from Sacramento, California. So it's called saccasting.com, and you go on there. It's maybe, I don't know what it was, $10 a month to sign up, and they'll put the roles that they're searching for actors to go audition. So I just put a little, profile up on there, and I started looking at what they were auditioning for. And I went out. I remember so clearly too, my first audition, I was, again, terrified. But I'm like, I'm going to do this. This is fun, right? This is something I'm passionate about. And as if I could be courageous enough to walk through that fear, I knew that that's what my heart and soul wanted to be doing. So I show up to the audition, and I am so nervous. When I get really nervous, I get shaky.
Oh gosh.
Very shaky. And so I'm doing the audition, and I'm shaking and, like teary-eyed and stuff, which actually worked really well because it was for the part of an emotional daughter. So me being shaky and emotional actually added to me.
You are an inspirational, heart-centered speaker. Tell me more about that, and what does heart-centered mean?
Ooh, good question. So I just love encouraging people. And I think because I lived so long trapped in this prison of fear, that since I've found some things that have helped me escape that prison and actually live a more authentic, adventurous, exciting life, I want to encourage other people that might be stuck in that same prison.
Yes.
And so that's just it comes from my heart, like this idea of wanting to encourage people. And I realize that whenever I speak to encourage, a lot of times I will get emotional or get choked up. And I used to apologize for that. And then I realized, wait a minute, that's just part of me authentically being who I am. Yes. And speaking from my heart. So I'm going to stop apologizing, and I'm just going to show up completely how I am. And that just happens to be very heart-centered. I mean, there's a lot of, the head-centered where it's the knowledge and facts and knowing things, which is important. But I really believe that combining both is where we find our greatest power. And a lot of times the heart part is left out because I think some people think that maybe being vulnerable or showing up authentically, they can interpret that as a weakness, especially like in a professional realm. And I just don't view it that way. I feel like that is a strength, and it's meant to be combined with our knowledge and the facts that we have, and bringing both of those together is powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then that's what actually is authenticity. It's being our real self, and so many people aren't, especially in the business world as well. People think, oh, you can't show emotions, you can't show your vulnerability. And that's wrong. You've got to have heart. You've got to be able to show you actually care. You've got to have some emotion. Yeah, definitely.
I think at the end of the day, that is what people want to see. And like you were saying, it's people can tell, I think, when we're in alignment. Yes. Like mind, body, spirit kind of alignment. So that's what I strive for now, is finding this balance of all of the facets of myself and bringing that all to the table instead, because I was so out of alignment before. Like I was such a people pleaser, doing things for other people. So I would say one thing, but be feeling something totally different. And that was me being completely out of alignment. And so my life was a mess because of it. It was like, I'm lying. I'm being disingenuous. And even from a place of unknowing, because I was truly unconsciously doing it, but that's really what was happening. So as soon as I had the awareness of like, wait a minute, I am saying something that is not true to keep someone else
Happy.
or, make them feel a certain way so that I, in turn, could feel good about myself, so that I could feel validated. And it wasn't fair to myself. It wasn't fair to other people. So when I started to align what I was saying to who I truly am and what my thoughts were and what I was feeling, it's like my life has just been so much better. Just freedom is what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have actually watched your TEDx talk that you've put on YouTube, and I can put the link in your show notes. Anybody that is a people pleaser, I would highly recommend they watch it. And I absolutely could relate to it myself. And that was me a number of years ago, not allowing ourselves to be who we are because we don't want to upset others. And, it's absolutely a must if you want to be authentic and be the real you. You have to tell people how you're feeling, or at least be honest with them. And let's face it, not everyone's going to like it. You're going to upset a few people. But that's what life's about. You can't go in life pleasing everyone. You just can't. You're doing yourself a disservice there.
1,000,000% accurate. It's my life really has shifted since noticing, because the first step is always awareness.
Yes.
We can't change something that we don't even know we're doing, or that's where we're at in life. And for so long, I didn't realize that I knew things felt off, but I didn't realize that I was people pleasing so much, and that I was living from a place of fear. I think that was the biggest realization for me. And it was actually through a hypnotherapy session, which I don't know if you know much about hypnotherapy, but
yes.
Yeah, like a deep kind of guided meditation in a way. And it just goes past your conscious mind into more your subconscious, and where you hold all of those beliefs. And I realized in one of those sessions that my being was full of fear. And so seeing that, like, oh my gosh, because the whole exercise was, she was having me walk into my safe space inside of myself. And I remember she has me open this door to walk into my safe place. And I open the door and it's like pitch black. And I just feel terrified. And I'm thinking to myself, this is my safe place? Like, this is horrible. This is not safe at all. Get me out of here. And that was me. It was inside of me that was so pitch black and driven by fear. And she even had me do this exercise of like, picture a clear bubble. And imagine all of that fear, all of that darkness going up into this bubble, and then watch it float away. So I did all of this just in my imagination. But as soon as I did that, she said, now what do you see? What does your safe place look like? And it was clear. It was like Excellent. This clear canvas where I could then create safety and peace and love, because the fear had been removed. So it was like a really cool, just mental, spiritual exercise but I didn't have the awareness of how much fear was inside of me until I did that. So awareness is the first step.
Yeah, because that's really interesting. I mean, can you imagine? No wonder you're living out of your fears if that's what your safe space looks like.
That's what I said. Yeah. I was shocked, and I'm like crying in this hypnotherapy session because I'm going, it hit me, but at a very deep level, it hit me that, wait a minute, this is my subconscious belief, is just that I am living in fear, and the subconscious belief of you're not good enough. So then on top of all these beliefs, that's where the insecurity comes in, or jealousy, and all of these things. But a lot of times we just try to get at the symptoms of it instead of really going deep within and healing those wounds. Working on that will then free us to truly live our lives. Because yeah, we can do things for symptoms, but if that root cause or issue is still there, there's always going to be some kind of a block.
Definitely. And that's a very interesting point you make there. And it is true. It's the root cause. You can mask things over. We can wear different face masks. We can do a lot of things. But if you don't get to the core and actually deal and heal, it's not going to go away. You can pretend as much as you want. You can think your life is, whatever you want it to be. But if you don't get to the core of it and heal, you will never have that freedom.
Absolutely. And I will say healing from some of those wounds is, it's one of the hardest things I think we as humans will ever have to do, because some of the wounds inflicted on us are really traumatic. And so it's not to say that there's not valid, just horrible trauma that people have endured. That stuff happens all the time. And but at a certain point, we have to go, okay, wait a minute. I need to take control back from whatever these people did to me or whatever it is that I endured. I now need to create a life where I feel empowered, where I feel love, joy, peace. And that's where the personal responsibility comes in, and it kind of shifts over onto our shoulders to go, okay, these things happen to me, but I am going to take charge. I am going to do the hard work of healing these emotional wounds, the hard work of forgiveness, giving these things that happened to me a different meaning so that I can heal and continue living the life that was truly meant for me.
Absolutely. And it is about ownership as well, and taking your power back. Really is. I mean, you're a yoga instructor too. How do you get time to do everything? You're mother of two.
Well, I think part of the reason is because I have banished perfectionism from my life. So it's
good
like
one.
Yeah, I do all these things. I don't know if I do any of them well, but but I do them. It's yoga actually was one of the things that I discovered shortly after my divorce, along with hypnotherapy, that really helped me become in alignment again. And because yoga is a mind, body, spirit kind of unity, connecting all of those parts of ourselves. So I remember going to my first yoga class at the gym and feeling, because I would always look in and go, oh my gosh, that looks so boring. Like, how do people sit there and just stretch for an hour? Because I was all into these sports where you're like hitting balls and like running and just a bit more aggressive type of physical activity. So it looked really boring. But as soon as I went in there and I was on this kind of healing journey, it took on a whole different feel for me. And I remember there were several yoga classes where afterwards in Shavasana, I would just lay there and tears are just like, oh gosh, streaming from my eyes. And I'm feeling these feelings, a lot of peace, sometimes feelings of regret or, just things would come up, but I would allow myself to feel them instead of repressing them and squashing them down like I was so good at doing before. And I think when we allow ourselves to feel and let the feelings go through us, then they don't get stuck in us. And I had so many feelings that were just trapped inside of me that yoga was a great way of kind of releasing with your body, mind, and spirit, releasing all of those trapped emotions. And then it's like everything's flowing instead of just like everything being trapped and stuck.
Absolutely. And like you say, it's the release. And if you get emotional, it's allowing ourselves to just be. How many times do we not just allow ourselves to be? We're always wanting to rush around, do this, do that. And in fact, sometimes we avoid just being because of what it might bring up. I mean, I think that's absolutely excellent. So
That's true.
Yes. What resources do you recommend, daily tips, tools to anyone that wants to start living a more heart-centered life?
Ooh, I would say, so I use an app called Insight Timer, which I love. It has a bunch of meditations, music, but there's a timer on there so you can kind of keep track of meditation sessions. And or even if it's a walking meditation, but some time out of your day to truly just sit in stillness and in quiet space with yourself. Because like you said, it does bring up things. And a lot of times we try to numb and avoid and distract and do all the things instead of coming back to ourselves and giving that kind of wounded child inside of ourselves attention and really, just focusing on our personal growth, our development. And it is scary. And I think that is why, a lot of times we don't want to do it. And I find myself doing that too, just like putting off meditations. Oh, let me do. But I feel it. If I do that for too long, something in my spirit just feels off. And I know I need to kind of reset. So even if you just sit and focus on breath, like inhaling in, allowing the air to go all the way into your stomach, because we breathe so much just from our chest. It's very shallow breathing. And then exhaling all the air out. If you take like 5 deep cleansing breaths like that, something shifts. It's crazy. We just kind of, sink more into ourselves and into being present instead of into the past or the future. Our mind a lot of times is like back here and then, up here. Now I'm worried about this. I'm anxious about this. Oh, now I'm depressed about the past. And so we find ourselves a lot of times in those spaces instead of I'm just here right now. I'm breathing. I'm feeling the chair underneath me. You know what I mean? Like being more in that this present moment, which is truly all that exists.
So where can the listeners find you online? Your books, because you're a best-selling author and you've written a number of books. What's your website?
So I am at janiceburt.com, or you can also find me at SpanishJanice.com. That one's a tongue twister too.
Yes.
And then I'm on social media stuff and LinkedIn and things like that.
Thank you for sharing your inspirational, courageous journey with us today. And by doing so, I know you've helped so many others and all the people pleasers out there. Definitely. Janice Burt.
Thank you so much.
What is your definition of courage? Because we are here, Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast. So what is your definition of courage?
I just think simply put, it's walking through our fears, because fear truly is what holds us back from living the life we're meant to live, from being who we are meant to be. It is a prison. And when we have the courage and when we're brave enough to truly look within, to heal those emotional wounds, to take action and walk through those fears, because all of that stuff is fear, right? Not wanting to sit in silence and come face to face with yourself is fear, is based on fear. Not wanting to go out for an audition or, be creative in a way that you want to be creative in, but you're scared of what other people will think or say about you. That's fear. It's all a prison. And our job is to be courageous in life. I imagine it as we all have the key in our back pocket to open the prison door of fear. So, and it's a choice. We have the key.
Definitely.
Now, the prison of fear feels comfortable because it's familiar.
Yes.
Right? It's familiar. And so a lot of times we stay, even though we know this is not the situation I want to be in, or this is not the life that I really want to be living. But because it's safe and because it's comfortable, we choose to stay in it.
Yeah, because here's the thing. There is no comfort in the comfort zone.
Absolutely. Yes. And we have the key that we can pull out at any time. And the key truly is courage. It's having courage to walk through those fears, to heal those emotional wounds, to forgive the things that we need to forgive in our lives to be able to move on. It's all of that. So simply put, I would say to be courageous is to walk through your deepest fears.